Many people are familiar with chamomile, but few know just how many amazing plant benefits there are in this little plant. Chamomile, or Matricaria chamomilla, is one of our most powerfully medicinal herbs, yet it's gentle enough for most people to use. In this episode, I'm sharing my top 6 chamomile plant benefits and showing you how to make a chamomile oil recipe. This chamomile infused oil recipe is a luxurious way to support your skin and promote rest. More on that soon. Hello and welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through nature connection. I'm your host, Rosalee de la Forêt. I created this YouTube channel to share trusted herbal wisdom so that you can get the best results when relying on herbs for your health. I love offering up practical knowledge to help you dive deeper into the world of medicinal plants and seasonal living. Each episode of the Herbs with Rosalee podcast is shared on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast app. Transcripts and recipes for each episode can be found at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or through the link in the video description. Also in the video description, you'll find other helpful resources. For example, to get my best herbal tips, as well as fun bonuses, be sure to sign up for my weekly herbal newsletter. Okay, grab your cup of tea and let's dive in. For many years, I basically ignored chamomile. Sure, I thought it was great for children or a nice tasting after dinner drink, but when it came to serious herbal medicine, one would obviously look beyond chamomile. However, I was completely wrong about chamomile, and it's become one of my most used herbs. Over many years of working with chamomile, what I learned is that to get the most chamomile plant benefits, you need to know how to prepare it for any given situation. I also came to appreciate the advice of my friend and herbalist Jim McDonald, who points out that chamomile teaches us gentle does not mean weak. First, let's make sure we're talking about the same plant. Chamomile has the genus and species name of Matricaria chamomilla. This chamomile used to have a different botanical name, Matricaria resuscita, but is now officially Matricaria chamomilla. It's sometimes commonly called German chamomile. The word chamomile is derived from words meaning earth and apple. In Spanish, it's commonly called manzanilla, which means little apple. There's another plant that's also commonly referred to as chamomile. This is Roman chamomile, or Chamomillum nobile. This is an entirely different plant than the one I'm sharing about today. It has its own gifts and uses. If you ever get the chance to compare the two in its scent and taste, I highly recommend it. You'll notice a big difference. And finally, there's a common weed, often called pineapple weed, or Matricaria discoidea. This plant loves to grow in hard-packed driveways. It is more closely related to Matricaria chamomilla, and it also smells and tastes very similar. I use the two interchangeably, although I'll admit it's hard to find pineapple weed growing in a non-toxic area that's safe for harvesting. Chamomile has been loved and revered by people for thousands of years. Actually, make that tens of thousands of years. Excavations at Jacob's Bridge, an archaeological site in Israel, reveal that Paleolithic humans were consuming chamomile as early as 49,000 years ago. There's so much to know about chamomile, and this episode is packed with chamomile plant benefits. If you'd like to keep this information organized, I've made it really easy for you. Check out the video description or the show notes to download your copy of a beautifully illustrated chamomile ebook. Do you have experience with chamomile plant benefits? I'd love to hear about it in the comments on YouTube or on the official podcast page, herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Your comments mean a lot to me, and I love cultivating a community of kind-hearted, plant-loving folks. Plus, it's always interesting and insightful to hear the experiences of plant lovers out there. And you never know, your suggestion may also help others. Okay, let's dive in. Chamomile energetics. Chamomile is high in aromatic essential oils while also having strong, bitter flavors, especially with longer steeping times. Many herbalists consider chamomile to be warming to digestion, yet it's also used as a relaxing diaphoretic, which is cooling in support of the fever process. Like many plants, chamomile defies classification, but with nuanced understanding, we can effectively match the herb to the person and their situation. If you're new to the concepts of herbal energetics and understanding if a plant or condition is hot or cold or damp or dry, then I highly recommend my free Herbal Jumpstart course. This short video course takes you through the ins and outs of herbal energetics, and by the time you finish, you'll have increased your herbal knowledge tenfold. This course is entirely free to everyone who joins my herbal newsletter community. In addition to getting the free Herbal Jumpstart course, you'll also hear from me every Wednesday with my best herbal tips and recipes. Look for the link to sign up in the video description or the show notes. As promised, I'm going to share my top 6 chamomile plant benefits. The first chamomile plant benefit is for supporting your nervous system to ease stress, anxiety, and to promote calm. Drinking a strong cup of chamomile tea is like getting a warm and reassuring embrace from a loved one. About halfway through a cup of chamomile tea, I notice my shoulders relaxing, my breath deepening, and my entire body just unwinding from stress. In other words, move over apples. In today's stress-filled world, a cup of chamomile tea a day could be what keeps the doctor away. For centuries, herbalists have used chamomile to soothe the nervous system of both children and adults. A common saying is that chamomile is indicated for whining children or adults acting like whining children. It can also be taken at night to promote sleep. I found that dosage is key here. The more you use, the more profound the results. Researchers have taken an interest in chamomile and have conducted several human clinical trials to evaluate its ability to address both depression and anxiety. In an exploratory study, researchers found that chamomile, even at a relatively small dose, 220 milligrams, was more effective than a placebo in relieving both depression and anxiety. Another clinical study found that chamomile relieved mild to moderate anxiety in people diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. I prefer chamomile for anxiety and pent-up nervous system energy rather than low or depressive energy. It's a relaxing nervine, meaning it decreases nervous system tension and helps the body to switch to a more parasympathetic nervous system function. The second chamomile plant benefit is for relaxing muscle tension to relieve cramps and pain. As chamomile relaxes our nervous system, it also relaxes the stress we hold in our muscles. I reach for Matricaria chamomilla whenever there's muscle tension related to stress or simply muscle tension leading to pain. I've seen it relieve severe menstrual cramps as well as headaches that are accompanied by excess tension in the upper back. Since pain can often be accompanied by emotional distress, chamomile brings welcome relief on many levels. In one clinical study, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, were compared with chamomile in women with PMS. After 2 months, those using chamomile had a reduction in pain similar to that of the women using the NSAIDs. And those using the chamomile also had significantly fewer emotional symptoms. Another study looked at topical chamomile for carpal tunnel syndrome pain. In this pilot study, the researchers concluded that chamomile oil improves symptomatic and functional status of patients with severe carpal tunnel syndrome. For relieving muscle tension and pain, chamomile can be taken internally as a tea, tincture, or glycerite. It can also be used externally on the affected area as an infused oil. I'll be sharing my recipe for this underrated preparation in just a bit. The third chamomile plant benefit is for addressing cold and flu symptoms. Chamomile is my favorite herb for fevers accompanied by aches and pains. Chamomile supports the fever process, but it doesn't artificially lower a person's body temperature. Instead, chamomile relaxes tension and has a relaxing diaphoretic effect, allowing excess heat in the body to escape through the skin. Taken as a really strong, warm tea, it can also be sedating, helping the patient to rest. The specific indications for chamomile for fever is when the person feels hot, is irritable, has aches and pains, possibly including a headache, and just wants to rest and sleep it off. I've also seen chamomile tincture work well as an antispasmodic for those dry, hacking coughs that can often show up at the end of an illness. I like to accompany chamomile with moistening teas such as marshmallow or violet for those sorts of dry coughs. The fourth chamomile plant benefit is for digestion. Long used as a delicious after-dinner drink, chamomile is a wonderful herb for digestion. It has both bitter and aromatic flavors that encourage digestive function, including the breakdown of fats. If there's anxiety or tension interfering with digestion, chamomile again offers relief on many levels, in that it both supports digestion while also helping you to shift to a more relaxed state so you can better digest your foods. Chamomile modulates inflammation and can be used for a myriad of inflammatory digestive complaints. A 2023 in vitro study showed that probiotics combined with chamomile help to maintain a healthy gut and therefore may be helpful for those with irritable bowel syndrome. A 2016 study found that 1 gram of encapsulated chamomile per day significantly decreased the frequency of vomiting in women undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer as compared to a placebo. By the way, it was shown to be as effective as ginger in reducing vomiting, although ginger did decrease the frequency of nausea better than chamomile. A combination of chamomile and flaxseed has also been shown to be helpful for those suffering with dry mouth. When you don't have enough saliva in your mouth, it makes it hard to both chew and swallow food. Dry mouth is unfortunately very common in the elderly, but it can happen to anybody at any age. In a 2017 clinical trial, people who were taking the combination of chamomile and flaxseed had a greater relief of dry mouth symptoms than the conventional substitute. Okay, the fifth chamomile plant benefit is for modulating inflammation. Whether you are new to my podcast and YouTube channel, or you've been following me for a while, you know that chronic inflammation is something that I'm really passionate about. Chronic inflammation is the root cause of many chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and many digestive complaints and ongoing pain. Medicinal plants are phenomenal at addressing chronic inflammation, and chamomile is a great example of this. Chamomile can be used externally as a poultice, a fomentation, a bath, or liniment to help calm inflammatory responses. Think of it for rashes, burns, or even bleeding gums and oral mucositis. One interesting study compared the topical use of chamomile compresses with hydrocortisone cream for relieving itching and discomfort associated with skin lesions in people who have stomas, which is a surgically created opening in the abdomen that allows stool or urine to exit the body. In this study, participants were given either a 1% hydrocortisone cream or chamomile compresses twice a day. Those using the chamomile compresses had significantly faster healing time, as well as a considerable decrease in pain and itching compared with those using the steroid cream. The researchers also pointed out that using chamomile instead of the steroid cream prevents serious side effects associated with topical steroid use, such as thinning of the skin. As I mentioned earlier, chronic inflammation is a major underlying factor of type 2 diabetes. Chamomile has also been shown to relieve inflammation systemically in patients aged 30 to 64 with type 2 diabetes. In this study, 32 men and women who had type 2 diabetes drank chamomile tea 3 grams 3 times per day, immediately after meals. At the same time, 32 other men and women with type 2 diabetes drank the equivalent amount of water. After 8 weeks, those drinking chamomile had better glycemic control and increased antioxidant capacity. If you're concerned with chronic inflammation and the many ways that this can show up in our bodies, like heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, chronic pain, and more, then you'll definitely want to check out my free training, How to Use Herbs to Transform Your Health to Get More Energy and Vitality Without Expensive Supplements or a Restrictive Elimination Diet. You can access this free training by visiting herb-training.com. The sixth chamomile plant benefit is for children. If I had to choose only one herb for children, it would probably be chamomile. It soothes the nervous system, supports the body during a cold or flu, which is common in children, and it tastes pretty darn good. It's commonly used alongside fennel for infant colic, as well as to relieve the pain and discomfort during teething. Chamomile has also been shown, in partnership with apple pectin, to relieve acute diarrhea in children aged 6 months to 6 years. Chamomile can be used externally to clear up conjunctivitis or pink eye. I've actually seen that work with my own eyes. In his book, Wild Medicine Solution, Guido Mazzei writes, "As I was growing up, there was always a cold and somewhat sweetened bottle of chamomile tea in the fridge. What a great way to have the benefits of chamomile readily available for children." How to identify chamomile. Chamomile is a delicate-looking plant in the Asteraceae family. As mentioned, its botanical name is Matricaria chamomilla. It has small daisy-like flowers with white ray petals and yellow disc flowers. The flowers measure about a ½ inch in diameter and are pleasantly aromatic. The flowers grow on spindly stems that can form a dense mat. The roots are very shallow. The leaves are bi to tripinnate. How to prepare chamomile. Chamomile is commonly used in a variety of different preparations. But before I share about these, I want to highlight that a small number of people are allergic or sensitive to plants in the Asteraceae family. These people should avoid chamomile or approach it with caution, by which I mean just try a little bit and see how you react. Well, of course, chamomile is famous as a tea, and since it's my favorite tea, I'm going to do a whole video about chamomile tea side effects and benefits. Plus, I'm sharing my favorite chamomile tea recipes, so look out for that. Chamomile can also be used as a tincture or alcohol extract. This is my preferred method when I'm traveling or away from home, and I use it for nighttime insomnia, pain, or nighttime spasmodic coughing. Chamomile can also be used in foods. It makes a nice syrup, and I often include it when I make popsicles. Chamomile can be used externally. It can be infused into oil, or used as a poultice or fermentation, as an herbal bath, as a diluted essential oil, or as a liniment. Chamomile essential oil is a beautiful product that turns a deep blue color. It has many benefits, but it also has the downside of being really expensive. That's because it takes an amazing amount of chamomile in order to produce a small amount of essential oil. The essential oil of chamomile is basically concentrating super specific constituents within chamomile, which has its pros and cons. And don't get me wrong, it's wonderful, but you can get a more holistic preparation of chamomile simply by infusing the flowers into oil. This preparation is easy to make at home, it's a lot cheaper than the essential oil, and it's more sustainable. I love chamomile infused oil. I use it on my face, neck, and chest before bedtime. And you can use it over tight muscles, even muscle cramps, like Charlie horses or menstrual cramps. It also modulates inflammation and can be part of a protocol to address inflammatory skin conditions. I started making this infused oil a few years ago, and I gave it to my friend who had small children, and it became their nightly ritual to rub the oil on just before bed. This year, my friend, who's also a farmer, grew an entire row of chamomile so that she could make enough oil for the whole family for an entire year. So I'm telling you, this stuff is amazing. I like to use it as a face oil, but you can also use this as a salve recipe. And to make this, you only need 2 ingredients. The first is freshly dried chamomile flowers that are highly aromatic, and the second is a carrier oil of your choice. If you're going to be using your chamomile oil in salves, olive oil is an ideal carrier oil because it's shelf stable and it's affordable. If you're going to use it as a face oil, cream, or a body butter, then a lighter oil such as jojoba or apricot kernel oil is probably a better choice. If you love chamomile essential oil and you don't mind spending a small fortune on it, then it can be a luxurious addition to this blend, though the infused oil is wonderful both with or without the essential oil. Chamomile essential oil has the potential to negatively interact with some drugs. So if you're using it for the first time, test it, dilute it on a small area to see if there's any irritation. Here's how to make the infused oil. Start by finely crumbling the chamomile flowers. You can pulse them a bit in a blender or a food processor for a short bit. You're really looking for flowers that are very fine, but not necessarily powdered. Then fill a jar halfway with those chamomile flowers. Then you can fill the jar the rest of the way with your choice of carrier oil. Give it a good stir, and once it's soaked up some things, you might need to add more oil, perhaps. Then you can store this in a cool, dark place where you'll remember to shake it daily. I like to keep it on my counter with a towel over it to keep out excess light. You'll want to steep this for about 4 weeks, and once it's done steeping, you can strain it well. If you're using the optional chamomile essential oil, you can add 3 drops of the essential oil per 1 ounce of the strained oil. And then you can store it in a cool, dry place and preferably use it within a year. Okay, I have shared a lot of chamomile plant benefits with you, so I've got 2 downloadables for you. As an herbal teacher, my success is seeing your success, so I love supporting you along the way. The first downloadable is a chamomile ebook, which is beautifully illustrated and contains the information I've just shared. The second is your free printable recipe card for this chamomile oil recipe. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can click the link in the video description, or if listening to the podcast, you can go directly to the show notes at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Also, in the video description and show notes, I've included other helpful links, like where you can buy exceptional quality chamomile, as well as both of my books. If you've enjoyed this video on chamomile plant benefits and this chamomile oil recipe, and you value trusted herbal information, then I hope you'll stick around. The best way to get started is to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. One of the best ways to retain and understand something you've just learned is to share it in your own words. With that in mind, I invite you to share your takeaways with me and the entire Herbs with Rosalee community. You can leave comments on my YouTube channel, on the herbswithrosaleepodcast.com show notes page, or simply hit reply to my Wednesday email. I read every comment that comes in, and I'm excited to hear about your herbal thoughts about chamomile plant benefits and this chamomile oil recipe. I deeply believe that this world needs more herbalists and plant-centered folks, and I'm so glad that you're here as part of this herbal community. Also, a big round of thanks to the people all over the world who make this podcast happen week to week. Nicole Paul is the project manager who oversees the whole operation, from guest outreach to writing show notes to actually uploading each episode and so many other things I don't even know. She really holds this whole thing together. Francesca is our fabulous video and audio editor. She not only makes listening more pleasant, she also adds beauty to the YouTube videos with plant images and video overlays. Tatiana Rusakova is the botanical illustrator who creates gorgeous plant and recipe illustrations for us. I love them. I know that you do too. Christy edits the recipe cards, and then Jenny creates them as well as the thumbnail images for YouTube. Michelle is the tech wizard behind the scenes, and Karen is our student services coordinator and customer support. For those of you who like to read along, Jennifer is who creates the transcripts each week. Xavier, my handsome French husband, is the cameraman and website IT guy. It takes an herbal village to make it all happen, including you. Okay, you've lasted to the very end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. Chamomile is a gentle plant, but that doesn't mean it's weak. As shared, the botanical name for chamomile is Matricaria chamomilla. The genus Matricaria is derived from the word mother. Some people say this is because chamomile is wonderful for mothers. Others say that drinking a cup of chamomile tea is like getting a hug from your mother. I think it could also point to the way that chamomile is like a mother who has the ability to be gentle and sweet, but can be strong and powerful when needed, like a mama bear. Chamomile is not only gentle and powerful, it seemingly does 1,001 different things, from soothing the nervous system, relieving muscle tension, and addressing cold and flu symptoms. It also promotes digestion and modulates inflammation. Best of all, regularly reaching for chamomile preparations can bring some comforting sunshine to your life.